Hello, and welcome to Coffee with KHEAA, episode 11.
Wow.
Every single one, I act shocked that we've made it.
We're in the double digits, guys. That's pretty good, right?
Right. We like to joke that we've not been canceled yet, but now our boss
The over-under was set at 1, I think. Now we're at 11, so.
Right.
Is it a good sign that I'm here or a bad sign? Yeah.
If this is the last episode,
You legitimize us.
now you know why. We have our boss on, and then that's the last episode.
There is no episode 12. That's the news I'm here to deliver today.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
She's brought us here for a reason. Right. It's been a good 14 years, but it's over. Okay. I'm Cassie Benedict, Director of Outreach Services.
And I'm Keith Ritchie, Assistant Director of Outreach.
And we have the specialist of all special guests today. We have the great and powerful Kim Dolan. How long is this podcast? Can I say your whole title?
Right.
Vice President of...
It can
I'm going to let you do it.
It can be a bit obnoxious.
The rest of it will be next episode.
I know.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to cut off halfway through. We'll have an ad break
There's
halfway
no way
through
to put
her
it on the
title.
screen because it takes up too much space.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm not even sure that means I'm important or anything. It's just a lot of things. No, I'm Kim Dolan. I am Vice President of Government Relations, Communications, and Outreach.
So it's really not that long.
Yeah.
I like to say Greco.
Yeah,
She's the VP of Greco.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, we need an acronym. We need an acronym for sure.
Yeah, she's our Greco.
Yeah.
So Kim is mine and Keith's boss, and she hired both of us.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
oh my gosh,
what
y'all.
you need to know is this is all Kim's fault. When you listen to these and you're like,
I created this.
what is going on?
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is your legacy, is me and Keith. No,
couldn't
Kim
have made better choices, but let me just say,
You are sweet.
couldn't have left it in better hands. That's for sure.
Well, we have a long history at KHEAA, but Kim has an even longer history. Let me actually intro the episode, and then Kim can intro herself. Don't cut that part out. You guys need to know that I can't get it together. So this episode, because we have Kim with us, she is going to talk with us about some legislative updates, some exciting things that happened in the state government this year. We're going to do a few updates on parents with no socials. We're going to talk about NCAN's hashtag Do the FAFSA campaign and summer office hours at KHEAA. But first, a little coffee talk. I'm so excited to do this coffee talk with Kim here. This is what if you are watching us and you're not listening to, if you're watching us on mute, that's really weird and awkward. But if you're watching us and you're on YouTube and not like the podcast, this is what you need to know. Typically when we film our podcast, we are in a very small, warm room. And if it is possible, we are in an even warmer room today.
Yeah.
We're in a different location, and
It's toasty.
It is
toasty.
toasty warm. By the end of this, we're all going to stink. Thankfully, you're watching and not actually in the room with
There's
us.
no smell-o-vision. Yeah.
Smell-o-vision.
Not a thing.
I am dripping, so I just like to acknowledge I know I'm sweaty. So there you go. We're all going to sweat to death.
That's
okay.
right.
Coffee talk. I'm so excited to do this one with Kim here.
All right.
Because I feel like she's going to have some good ones. So the coffee talk today is, what are some of your biggest pet peeves?
Love it.
Okay.
It's a good
All
one.
right.
And let loose.
Okay.
I
We're going to
can't
have
wait.
an airing
Okay.
of grievances
Okay.
on
Airing of
Coffee with
grievances.
KHEAA.
Airing of
Oh,
grievances.
I
Well,
know.
Okay. So I do have several, as everybody
excited
does,
to
right?
hear
Like that's
them.
normal.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I
I
do an
try to
entire
tell myself
podcast.
like I do have some pet peeves, but everybody has their pet peeves. So that's not in and of itself.
I could do the whole episode. It's fine.
One of my biggest pet peeves, and this is something that drives me up a wall, is people who sneeze abnormally loud. Like is she guilty of this?
She is so guilty. Mackenzie is here. She's lurking in the background, and she is an inappropriately loud sneezer.
Yeah.
Like, she will sneeze in staff meetings, and we will be like, That was uncalled for.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's a little much.
It's like, and my husband is guilty of this. So he is guilty of this. So I live with a loud sneezer, and I can't even bring myself sometimes to say bless you because I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed by the sneeze itself that I don't even want to say it. It just he has to make sure everybody, and I've heard him sneeze normally. He screams it. And I've heard him sneeze normally. So I know he can do it at a normal level.
He can rein that in.
He can rein it in.
Right.
Yeah, so that is the sneezing is a huge pet peeve of mine. Really good one. We trade sneezing pet peeves though, because I only sneeze in 3s and 4s. And so he also gets annoyed at me that it's not just one and done. So I guess maybe we're even in some way, but the loudness is definitely more annoying.
3 or 4 polite things
of sneezes. Yeah. So that's me. That's one of mine. I mean, we can go on, but that's one for sure.
I asked Daniel, I was like, did you sneeze like that before you became a dad? Or like you had a baby and then the next thing you started sneezing like
it is a dad thing, maybe.
It is a dad thing.
Except for Mackenzie, apparently.
Well, now I want her to sneeze in front of you. I need to see this.
I'm sure I've heard her sneeze before and I've just never noticed it.
She could sneeze out in the parking lot and it would show up on these mics, Kel. So.
Well, they would be like, hold please. Yeah. Mackenzie sneezed.
I'm going to record the next sneeze in like a memo.
Yes.
Send it.
Please do it. Yes. And send it to Lene so we can give you an example.
It's not on purpose. Sometimes they sneak up on me. If they sneak up on me, I just have to scream it out.
and that she does.
Yeah. But I can't, if I can prepare, I try. But sometimes is the only thing that I can.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
Coffee with Keith.
All right, we'll come back. So now you have more.
I do, yeah.
Keith, do you have one you want to tell us?
I do. I spend a lot of time thinking about my pet peeves. That's one of my hobbies, is to sit on my pedestal and think about all the things that have wronged me or annoy me in the world. But mine is kind of in that same category. I've got a problem with people who are loud chewers. Like, it drives me.
You do too. 100%.
Yes. I think I've talked to you about that.
You and I have this. We share this one because it is. I think there's actually a name for it. I have Googled this before because
like that. It's really that smacking. It drives me up a wall.
Yeah. I am 100% in the loud chewing camp. Yes. I can't stand it either.
Yes.
And it's almost to the point where you're sitting next to someone and like that's all you can focus on. You can't tune it out at a certain point because you've zeroed in on it.
Yeah.
And then it just, like, you have to either get up and move away or your meal is ruined.
Yes. Now, I will say, in all fairness, like, I know my wife, Ashley, has some pet peeves about my, like, eating habits. I mean, some of y'all have seen how I eat chicken wings, for instance.
I'll never be the same.
Yeah, kind of like a coyote. But, I've got my ways, and it works for me. So, that
he
sort
had
of
to,
thing.
like, ease me into him eating, like bone-in wings around me. Like, he ordered boneless a few times, and he was like, I think we're at this point in our friendship. And then he ordered bone-in, and I was not ready.
Yeah.
I'm still not ready. It's a sight to behold.
Yeah. What about you, Cass? What's your biggest one?
So I don't want to offend present company.
Which it basically means she is getting ready to offend you.
It's this one.
Right on.
And I don't know. This has always been right. This has always been like something I just catch on to. But when people add S's to things that S's don't belong on.
Okay.
So people who go to Kroger's. People who any of those.
Yes.
And like Owensboro, it may be everywhere, but Owensboro, where I'm from, people are so bad about it. I mean, like, there's a sushi restaurant called Shogun in Owensboro. It's Shogun's.
Yeah.
It's Kroger's.
Yeah.
There was a band called The Usual. Like, what will you have? The Usual. Owensboro called them The Usuals. Like, adding an S to everything.
Yeah.
And so when people say that, I like to say, like, how many? Like, how many Kroger's are you going to go to?
Yeah.
So
that's one of I'm pretty guilty of that. I do that all the time.
You do that because my husband actually has is friends with multiple staff members of us, and he has caught you doing this before because My sorry to
Okay, just,
throw you under the
anyone
bus.
else have any problems with me? Let's just get them all out
This
now.
is a roast
I don't
of
even know if I'm allowed to
Mackenzie back
say this
in
on
here.
this podcast, but my husband, we're in Kentucky, so my husband
can
and I
say
are bourbon
this.
drinkers.
Yes.
We collect bourbon.
Yeah. Yes.
We have,
Bourbons?
my husband has talked
yeah.
about bourbon with Keith before, and one of our favorite bourbons is Weller.
You mean Wellers?
And Keith is like, Kirk, have you got any Wellers lately? And you put the S on it every time, and he's like, Weller.
Like nails on a chalkboard.
It is. He has pointed it out to me more than once.
Yeah.
And
I love this so much.
Until now, I have never said anything, but since we're talking about it, I just figured I'd go ahead and let you know.
Right on. Well, let me pull out my Kim and Cassie vault that I keep in my wallet. So, all right.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, love it.
Okay, do you have more?
So
We can do a couple more.
Okay, let's do one.
Yeah.
I can do one more. I mean, yeah, I'll throw one more out there. And I'm very type A personality, right? So like, even in my leisure time, like I'm always on a mission, and I cannot stand slow walkers or the people who are like, if you're walking on a sidewalk or you're walking in a busy place. We were at the PGA Championship this past weekend, lots of people, and I know it's crowded, but the people who are just meandering along,
Yes.
in front like move to the side, or that just stop right in front of you when they can, like,
Yes.
that drives me up a wall.
I feel
and
that.
I admit, like, I'm usually
Right.
I'm on a
do
mission
this.
to get where I'm going, no matter what. Work or leisure time, I'm trucking it.
Right.
So I understand that,
Yeah.
but that drives me crazy. Yeah.
I get that, because I also like, and I think this is in the same category, like time suckers. Like people that when you see them coming, you're like, well, there goes my
Clear the afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead and cancel all my appointments. They just walked into my office. Like when Brandy and I used to work at Kentucky Wesleyan, we had a joke that we wanted a get out button. There's just like a button on our desk that just said get out. And it would stay blacked out, but when someone came in, you could just be like, and so you didn't have to be rude. You just press the button, it would light up, and they would know, like, my time has
Like
come.
the applause signs, like the old or the on, like it would just
someone with a
on the
cane
wall, yeah.
come and pull them out of my office.
Relate to
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah, so time suckers is a pet peeve of mine. I think sometimes I am one, because I really like to talk, but
She has self-esteem issues. I'll tell you one that's been bothering me are these quiet typers out there. They drive me nuts. No, they don't type with purpose. They have no passion in what they're writing.
they have fully functional fingertips.
Their fingertips aren't calloused.
Here's the background on that.
Oh,
Keith is the
my
loudest typer you will ever
Yes.
meet.
A lot of, well, in all fairness, like the volume level of my typing depends on what kind of email I'm
fired
sending.
up you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I have noticed that the more fired up you are, the harder you bang on that keyboard. But man, it's like, you're like Beethoven on the piano,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
with some sort of.
There's like keys flying everywhere as he's.
It is mind-boggling how loudly you type. It really is.
Well, I don't even think about it, and then like anytime I'm in public or like next to someone,
Yes.
like they'll just like stop and stare at me. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I know what it is. Like it takes me like 3 seconds and like wonder why you're staring at me.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
So
Oh,
there
I
you
think
go.
that was your Morty Award this year. Was like
Was
the
it?
Bloody
Oh, yeah.
Fingers Award.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. There have been times where like my finger has gotten a little sore.
He doesn't have fingerprints anymore.
Right.
He's like, I don't
That's
know.
right.
The nails are just nubs.
That's
yeah,
right. Yes.
You don't even have to cut them or file them because
Yeah.
you
Do you
just
bite your
take
nails?
care of
No.
it.
Yeah, I'm a very passionate typer, so just y'all just have to deal with it.
Oh my word.
So now that we've offended everyone that is watching and listening, let's talk about real stuff. Y'all want to? Kim, I want you to give us a little bit of background on who you are, your history with KHEAA. It's been a long history.
It has. It sure
and
has.
So tell everyone the Kim Dolan legacy.
That makes it sound a lot more important and impressive than it is, maybe.
It's pretty
but,
important and impressive.
So I have been with KHEAA and KHEAA going on 19 years. It'll be 19 years this year. I started here in 2005.
hired when she was
Hard to believe.
10.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so prior to coming to KHEAA and KHEAA, I had worked in financial aid at the institutional level, but interestingly, not in Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky, grew up in Springfield, Kentucky, went to WKU after college. My husband and I moved to Houston, Texas. We lived there for a few years. Then we were out in San Diego, California for about a year, and then came back to Kentucky. So I got into financial aid when we lived in Texas, and then continued that in San Diego. And then when we came back here, was lucky enough to get on at KHEAA as an outreach counselor. And so I started out in 2005 as an outreach counselor in Jefferson County. Our regions were a little bit different then, so I had all of Jefferson County to myself. Yep. And did that for like 4 or 5 years, and then became assistant director of outreach, eventually director of outreach, and then about a year ago became VP of Government Relations, Communications, and Outreach. So have definitely spent the majority of my time at KHEAA in outreach, and so I was so glad when I had this opportunity. It's been very exciting and a lot of fun to have some new things that I'm dealing with in my position. But knowing that I still got to continue to oversee the work of outreach and kind of keep my hand in that was, kind of sealed the deal, because I don't know at the end of the day that I would have been able to step away from it entirely. Yes, I would have been heartbroken if they had said, you're going to have to turn it over to somebody else. And I don't know that I would have been able to. Not that you all, obviously outreach is in fantastic hands, but just the fact that I still get to work with you all and be a part of it is huge. So, yeah.
That was one of our first conversations when we were you had this opportunity come up, and and I was like, I know. Can you still be part of outreach? Can we be yours?
Yes.
Yes. We're not ready to give you up, Mom.
Yeah. Right. I remember that. I remember having that phone conversation with you, and I was like, I will still be able to work with outreach. Yeah. So that was like the first question. Yeah.
Well, I think about like my tenure at KHEAA, which is roughly 10 years, and you've been a fixture in outreach that whole time. And I think about like all of the different stages of outreach, the expansions, the different initiatives that have been a part of this ride. It's just crazy where we're at now compared to where we were, say, 10, 15, almost 20 years ago.
100%. And the fact that I'm younger than both of you is really something.
She's like a child prodigy here.
That's right. Yeah.
If only.
She's the Doogie Howser of college access.
Only Doogie Howser. Now that's
an 80s reference. Kim. It's before her time.
You don't know.
Before my time. I don't even know. Oh my gosh. No, I agree. And you all both, at this point in time, I feel like you all have that same, that same status in the department. As long as you all been around. Keith, I know you started as a college coach. Cassie, when we first expanded from 9 to 13, that's when you came on back in 2010, I think so. It's crazy. Yeah. We've all been around for a while.
We've grown up in KHEAA outreach.
We really have. We've all had all of our babies in KHEAA outreach.
We sure have.
Will, did you have Will when you worked here?
Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah. Among us, we have 8 outreach children that we've all had while we were working here.
Yeah.
So, the roots here.
I know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kim, tell us a little bit. First, tell us your title. We know your title. What does it mean? And then second, this is your year in now. Next month is a year.
Yeah.
So tell us, how has your first year been?
Okay, yeah.
And also, what's your job?
Yeah. So my role is, as I mentioned, I oversee the outreach work. I also oversee our communications department. So our communications department is responsible for all of our wonderful social media posts and all the content that we put on our social media channels, for helping us with this podcast, our print publications, our content that goes on our website, all of that. So I get the pleasure of overseeing that work as well, and work so closely hand in hand with outreach that makes sense that we work so closely together. And then the government relations piece, which was really the new piece for me when I transitioned into this role June of last year. And
it's been a year.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
it really has.
Crazy.
I know. It's flown.
It's crazy.
And so in that piece of it, I essentially act as a liaison between KHEAA and KHEAA and our legislature to build relationships with them because, all of our student aid programs, they're statutory programs, or the majority of them are anyway. And so, there's a lot of dealings that we have with our elected officials, and we're part of the Finance and Administration Cabinet, so there's relationships there. And, so I, basically, help to be a contact for our legislators and ensure that they have the information they need from us. And when we're in session, and we can talk about that a little bit too, but when we're in session, just ensuring that they have all the information they need. If there are things bills moving through that have to do with student aid programs or other aspects of our agency business. So I'm just, basically here to make sure that if we have goals, legislative priorities and goals, I kind of help shepherd those things through the process and try to get some things done that I know would benefit, aid programs or students that we might try to champion. And so, I do some of that work as well. And then I also do it on the federal level. Now, most of the time, because we're a state agency, we're thinking state interactions, and I do spend a lot of time doing that, but also do the same thing at the federal level. I mean, we were just in D.C. a couple weeks ago, I think,
and
go several times. Yeah, we go several times a year just to maintain relationships with our elected officials at the federal level and do some advocacy. Right? Yeah, do some advocacy there. Yeah, it is. It really is. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 year in.
Yes.
How you feel?
Really good.
You don't quit yet.
No. No. Really, really good. It's certainly been a learning process. I have learned a ton this year because the government relations aspect of it was fairly new to me. And so it's, just learning the ins and outs of all of that has been a learning process for sure, but fun and a new challenge. And, I always, when I talk to people who are like, oh, I say what I do, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, no, like, oh,
it's really good.
It's a really good thing. Yeah. It is. It's I feel very, like it's a privilege to be able to represent our agency in the public and be able to kind of be that voice for some of the things we're trying to accomplish to help students and families in Kentucky. So it's really a privilege. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like you've done a bang up job this year. I mean, I feel like
Absolutely.
you did really well. It just felt like it was almost seamless. Like you just stepped in, kind of knew what to do. Like it just felt like you've always been here. Like you've always been in that role.
I tried. I have to give credit where credit's due. We have, our executive director this year, also new. Not brand new to KHEAA. Like she had been with KHEAA for a long time, and then worked at LRC for a number of years, and then joined us back in the fall again as our new executive director. And so Joe Carroll has been fantastic. And, I don't know that I could have done this first year without her, because she's just been a fantastic mentor and helping me kind of understand, how everything works.
Right.
So yeah, definitely give her a ton of credit for being a good guide, for sure.
Yeah. There's a part of me that's like, we need to get Joe Carroll on the podcast. And then there's a part of me that's like, that for real will be the last episode. She'll be like, this is how we're
we got
spending
her
our
on a
money.
tiny mic interview. I mean, we can do that.
We did get her on a tiny mic interview.
That's
You
right.
did.
Yeah.
It was turned out so good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
yes.
did.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Be like, here's the caveat. You can't cancel the podcast.
Right.
That's right.
If you come on it, but will you come be a guest?
Right.
Yeah.
I think she would love it. I think
she'd be great.
Yeah. I think she would too.
Yeah.
I think she'd have a lot of fun. Okay, so Kim, let's get into the nuts and bolts. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. What were some of the highlights that you feel that happened in the legislative session?
So, gosh, I think probably, this was a budget session. So, really that was the primary focus for us. We had a number of budget priorities that we had worked with the General Assembly on, as we were leading up to the start of the session and then throughout the session. A lot of that had to do with funding for our student aid programs and just making sure that we're going to meet the need for the programs. And you all know how that goes. I mean, it's a moving target, so it's always hard to, it's not an exact science, but we felt like we had a really good handle. So when we put in our budget request, we had done some modeling and some forecasting, and it was a ambitious request because, as you all know, and I know we've talked about this on this podcast, the FAFSA changes have really increased the number of students who are qualifying for the Pell Grant. And if they qualify for the Pell Grant, they qualify for the CAP Grant, our state need-based grant. And so we knew we were going to need a pretty big jump in funding for that program to be able to meet as much of that increased need as we could. It's still a first come first served program. I don't know if we'll get through the whole year, but I have to say that was one of the highlights, is that they gave us what we requested. And that was pretty significant increase to what we had prior. So that's huge. And so I have to commend our elected officials and just the generosity they had and really hearing us and understanding why we needed so much more and really kind of delivering on that. So that was great.
Well, I know, from our perspective in outreach, we're out in the field and we're meeting with students and families, and in a lot of cases, that CAP grant is what plugs a lot of that gap to get closer to the finish line. So it's such an important program, and the fact that you all were able to make that movement this year, I think is huge for Kentucky families.
Talking about literal direct service to the students. Like we're essentially putting more money in their hands.
Absolutely.
We're putting the college opportunity in their hands. So, I
for whatever path, right? I mean, this is for our 4-year students, but students to go into 2-year programs as well. So really, the majority of post-secondary pathways, can benefit from that if they're qualifying, and we know more students will this year, which is great. Of all the turmoil, I mean, that's one of the great things that we've seen come out this year is more students are qualifying for need-based aid. So that was really good.
Huge win,
huge win. And there were other, wins in the budget. So just in general, they were very, generous and gave us a lot of what we requested. So that was definitely one of the big highlights. We also were able to get, some approval to spend funding to get a new college info roadshow.
That's huge.
So stay tuned, and that's coming, which is huge. Our college info roadshow, which is our mobile classroom, as you all know, has been on the road for a long time. It's 25 years of the service, but the current bus has been on the road since 2008. And
that's crazy.
That's my time at KHEAA.
Yeah.
Yours, right?
So, the bus is older than me and Keith.
Older than you,
in dog years.
And so that, and it's such a great service. It's so unique, and it's such a great service because it has high-speed internet, so we're able to take that into schools and communities and really engage students in a different way and in an exciting way to get them excited about post-secondary and then to help them access resources. So the fact that we're able to start moving forward on the next, the next era of the bus.
That's right. 3.0. No, 4.0. Is this the
This will be 3.0.
3.0.
Yes.
Okay.
This will be 3.0.
Okay.
This will be.
We started out with the RV.
Yes.
Right.
With an actual RV that had been converted to.
I've only heard about this RV. I've never actually seen a picture of it or anything. I don't think. But.
We're going to start keeping all the buses. Like a museum in our parking lot.
We can charge admission that, and we can maybe raise some funds that way.
There you go.
So all those. So those are some of the things that stood out in terms of the budget process. There are also, a couple of new programs that came out for students, a couple that have to do with teachers, either those who are pursuing teacher degrees in education, or there's also a new program to help veterinarians who are serving in rural communities and particularly helping large animals, which is a critical need in Kentucky. So there's going to be a new program to do some loan repayment for those folks and hopefully incentivize more of those vets to come and work in critical need areas in Kentucky. So that's great. Now, we have to get that information up on our website still. So there's still some, things. So I don't have a lot of details to share about that today, but it's coming. We're working on getting more information out on our website about the new programs for teachers and for the vets. And we'll get that out, and there'll be applications and all that. So stay tuned. Hopefully more information this summer, because those will go into effect in the coming school year. So, that was also something that came out of the session.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more?
Session.
All the help we can get for students, we'll take it. All of it. So you don't rest. The budget, our session ended in April. And
Mid-April,
you hit the ground running with what are our priorities for next year.
Yeah, so that's kind of an ongoing conversation. For those who don't know, because I do know, by the way, this is just a little aside, I know we have listeners in other states, and so I was
We
just
have listeners?
Wait, we're talking beyond Cassie's mom, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Which, wait, we have to
we
stop.
won your mom
because I
over
was
too
gonna
recently,
say,
didn't we?
We have to do
My
a shout
mom
out
loves it. Yes,
to Kim's
yes,
mom
yeah.
because I feel like she's probably going to listen to this.
I know Brandon Brown's mom's a
Brandon
fan. I'm
Brown.
telling you all, it's one mom at a time.
We're building it one mom at a time.
Yes.
So Kim Dolan's mom.
That is what makes the world turn. Moms are what makes the world go round. So
That's right.
you know, it only
And
makes
Addie
sense.
Ritchie.
He's a huge
Addie's a big fan.
I love it.
I told her that you were going to be on today's episode, and she's super excited.
Yeah. Hey, I love it. I love it. I do have a fan club in the kids of
You
our
really
Yes.
do. Abbott very frequently talks about Kim Dolan. One word. Every meeting, he's like, why isn't Kim Dolan on that meeting? Where Tony called the other day and he goes, Mom, is that your boss? Is that Kim Dolan calling? I said, no, I'm her boss.
Love it. I love it. Didn't he request, like, he wanted in his lunchbox note?
Yes,
He wanted
me to write about you, draw a picture of Kim Dolan, and he frequently wants to see what she
Love
looks like. Like,
Yes.
Mom, can you Google a picture of Kim Dolan?
It's like
That might be
warms
our
my
next
heart.
promotional giveaway. It's like a Kim Dolan lunchbox. How about that? We'll just give it out to everyone's kid who wants it.
A koozie.
Sorry,
Yeah.
this is our Kim Dolan line of products.
We did have that screen, the Zoom background at one point in time where I was
My moral compass of FAFSA completion.
You really were the eyes at that point. During COVID, someone made like
I told all the college coaches, imagine Kim Dolan is standing right behind you. If you feel a little iffy about it, maybe you're not doing the right thing. You know.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Kim's always been our angel on our shoulder.
She is.
Yeah.
We have bracelets that say WWKD.
Oh my gosh.
What were we talking about?
I know. So other this is just an aside.
Okay.
I have to say this is just a little bit of an aside. So we were in Washington D.C. a couple of weeks ago.
States. Okay.
And we have counterparts that like us at similar agencies in other states.
Sure.
And we were all there for this, group that we're all a part of. And so the topic came up about podcasts. And there are several others that were wanting to do podcasts. And I was like, we just started a podcast. I was so proud.
We do it.
To talk about it. Yeah. And so, I was sharing information and encouraging
it.
them, to use us as an example of, if they're planning on starting their own. And
then they listened to it and they
a-
were like, oh.
To get, listen.
Wait a minute. This isn't what we
there's
meant.
always the warning, audio on the first few, not the great.
Start with episode 3.
Yeah.
Or episode 3.
That's right.
Yes.
There's some gold in episode 1 and 2. You just can't hear it.
Yeah.
Right. We figured it out, though. That's the important
We figured it out.
thing.
Look at
Every
these fancy
episode,
things. Like,
every episode gets a
Well,
little
I
bit
think
better.
the word's starting to spread, Kim, because I was at that ACAC convening last week in D.C., and there were a couple people in other states that said they listened to our podcast.
So see, we do. We have yes.
Right.
this makes my...
We are
I'm done.
We're getting a following, y'all. We are getting
That's
a following. So
Dozens of people.
Dozens.
We have dozens of
we're out of
episodes
the
and
sing-
dozens of
out of the
fans.
single digits now. We're into tens of listeners.
That's right. It is the report, and I'm like, 75 total in 10 episodes.
Yeah. 68 of them were you driving down the road, but other than that,
Keith was like, Addie asked to listen to Coffee with KHEAA the other day, and I was like, oh, I listened to it this morning, too. The second time I've listened.
Yeah.
Such a...
Oh my gosh.
Priorities
Yeah, so
moving
where
forward.
oh thank you. Okay, I was like totally got
Where are
sidetracked
we?
with that. That's my bad. Legislative priorities. So we will a couple things I wanted to mention really quick. So we will kind of shape our legislative priorities moving into the summer and get those ready to start sharing as we meet with legislators in the interim. So, and for those of you, this is how I know how I got on the out-of-state thing. So for those who listen that are not from Kentucky, just to understand, we have a legislative session every year. We do a budget session every other year, so we work on a biennial budget. off years are shorter sessions, but we do have a session every year, a regular session that's always January to March or April, depending on the length of the session. And then June through November, December is our interim session. And so there isn't any, legislation being passed during that interim session, but it's a time for legislators to still come in. They're participating in committee meetings. If there were any task forces established during the session, they may be coming, to participate in those. And it's really an opportunity for them to gather information, ask questions as they start to decide what their priorities are moving into the next session. And so we will participate in that. We're usually, if they need information about our student aid programs, about our outreach work, anything that the agency does, we, will go and provide information as they request it. So we'll participate in that. And then as we move through, we'll start to shape priorities for the 2025 session. So that'll be the next time that we're really trying to, to actively move anything, so I don't have a lot right now to share in terms of what the agency's priorities are going to be. The one I will say, and it was a priority for us this session, it has been for a couple sessions, we haven't been able to move it. But hopefully we will be able to, and that's has to do with our KHEAA Saves 529. So we administer that program in Kentucky. That's our 529 college savings program. And we're one of few states in the entire country that don't have some sort of tax incentive for those contributing to, if they're a Kentucky resident and they're contributing to Kentucky's 529 plan, we don't really have a tax incentive for that. And so we, would love to see, help incentivize people who want to save for their, kids' college education or a grandkid or a niece or nephew or whoever, to try to incentivize that a little bit, because the more they save up front, as you all know, and we all have young kids, the more you save up front, hopefully the less you're going to have to pay out of pocket or borrow in student loans down the road. And so we really, would love to see something like that get across the finish line. So we're going to continue to work on that. And then beyond that, I'm sure some other things will come up as we move through the summer and into the fall.
I'll tell you this, when we go to FAFSA workshops and we're meeting with parents and, families, and they've got a senior in high school, for instance, and they're staring at, college right in the face at that point, the amount of parents who are just a little bit more calm because they saved in like the KHEAA Saves program for years. It spreads out that cost over the course of several years, and they're not nearly as stressed about it because of that. So it's a wonderful program. I know, I have it with my daughters, and I'm very thankful that we have something like that here.
So. I don't have it as KHEAA Saves for my kids, but I have them for Keith's daughter.
There we go. Just keep sending them on down.
My kids are sorry. Starting when Harper was born, and that's who all the money goes to. So we're actually gonna.
I call David Lawhorn. He adjusted some things on the computer.
Abbott Benedict, if you're listening, that's not true.
Well. Both of you have been contributing to the Ritchie family.
Thanks for that. It's actually a great program, and so we're gonna have some representatives from the 529 Kentucky Saves program on the podcast soon. We're trying to work out some details there, but stay tuned for that, because if that's something you're interested in, and it doesn't have, even if your kid is 14, you can start saving right now. You can save for, your graduate studies. Lots of options. So
that's the beautiful thing about it. It's never too early to start saving. It's never too late.
Last thing I'll mention, just since we're talking about priorities, and I mentioned that we also go, and advocate on the federal level as well. And so, there are some things, like I said, while a lot of our work happens at the state level, obviously policies at the federal level touch us in a lot of ways. FAFSA clearly is a big one, but 529 policy, for example, is another thing that is set at the federal level. So when we were in DC a few weeks ago, we were advocating for some bills that are floating around to expand what you can use your 529 savings for. So allowing it to be used for transportation expenses, allowing it to be used for short-term credentials. Those things currently are not approved expenses, and we would like to see that happen. That happens at the federal level. So we meet with our Kentucky delegation, let them know those are priorities for us, and encourage them to advocate for those things. FAFSA is another one. We were up there talking about FAFSA. Of course, everybody's talking about FAFSA right now, so that was not, even they had questions for us, and are hearing from their constituents. So, we try to advocate for improvements or things that we feel like would benefit in Kentucky students and families in particular. So we do that. And then we also try to raise awareness for the other side of the house, which is our student loan side of the house. So we're a nonprofit, state-based lender for our Advantage Education Loan, and there are other entities like us around the country who are smaller, again, nonprofit, state-based, and we're not the big for-profit players. We're not the federal government with the PLUS loan. Where we have the resources to put it out there. We have to rely on awareness, and so there's also some stuff at the federal level that we're advocating for to help increase awareness for students that we are, in most cases, a more affordable option than the PLUS loan, and we're a more affordable option a lot of times than even those for-profit lenders. And so encouraging them to help us, raise awareness so that students and families are getting the best deal when it comes to borrowing for their education. And so there's a lot of that goes on too at the federal. So kind of working both sides of it right now.
When you think about like a student loan product, for instance, and you're kind of shopping around, a lot of people don't think like this, but think about it this way: if you can knock off a few points off that interest rate by going with a cheaper option like the Advantage loan, that's as good as getting a scholarship, because over the life of that loan, you might save thousands and thousands of dollars by just shaving off a few points off that interest rate.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Have you ever considered going into outreach?
I have. I've thought about it.
That's a good.
I think you have a future there.
Right? That's right.
Right,
maybe a career change. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a really good point. And, we just saw the interest rates come out recently on the federal loans, and we're seeing, PLUS loan is over 9% now.
That's crazy.
And they have a, 4+% origination fee. That's a pricey loan compared to, what they can get with our Advantage loan. And so, or others that are like us. And so, that's something that we always kind of have an eye on too. That doesn't happen as much at the state level, and we certainly want to increase awareness here, but there's some federal policies that also would help us to have a little more flexibility in what we can do to promote our what we the benefits that we can bring to students. So we work on that too.
Yeah. That's what's so exciting about KHEAA and all of our services. We really do try to wrap around the families and cover everything that could possibly be needed. Just talking about like the legislative priorities, Kim, you just mentioned scholarships, you mentioned need-based aid, you mentioned KY Saves, you mentioned loan products. So I mean, it really is kind of a one-stop shop to really learn about all the different resources that we have here in Kentucky. We're really blessed to live here.
Yeah, we really are.
Yeah.
So do you want to join us for the second half?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, awesome.
If you want me to.
No, you're not being kicked out. You're not being kicked out at all. I just didn't want to make you sweat for longer if you didn't want to. So Kim's going to stick around with us. We are going to take a short break because I'm going to find a freezer to get inside of.
Not bad.
And we'll be right back. Now a word from our sponsor.
Did you know the money you need for college is right here in Kentucky? Some families will need to borrow student loans to help cover college expenses. The Kentucky Advantage Education Loan, offered by Kentucky's only nonprofit lender, offers a low-cost, fixed-rate, zero-fee private loan. If you need to borrow, choose wisely. Choose the Kentucky Advantage Loan.
Why didn't you tell me to fix my hair?
Just like that.
He'll sound just like
that.
Why didn't you tell me?
That was dead on.
It was.
She thought it was you.
Yeah.
I mean,
she
could have been
on
you.
this side now.
I did. My eyes were closed. I wouldn't have known the difference.
I feel like every woman's impression of a man sounds like that.
It really is. It really is. Yes. Every man I know talks like this.
Basically, I mean.
Sound like her too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds like every man I know.
That's how Daniel talks.
When you coming home from work?
What's for dinner?
Well, what's for dinner? Will you give the kids a bath tonight?
Okay. And we're back. So we're going to talk, lots of updates have come out, lots of emails from FSA, from the Department of Ed, from NCAN about parents with no socials. So Keith, do you want to give us
Sure, yeah.
what's the update? And feel free to chime in.
I mean, this has been something we've talked about on a lot of episodes. It's been a source of a lot of frustration for a lot of families, over the last several months. But there is good news. So the good news is they are being a little bit more lenient about this whole dilemma with the FSAID. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit, they made a lot of changes to the rules where it used to be that if you didn't have a social security number, like as a parent, there wasn't a way to set up an FSAID, right? A student aid account. You would just be able to hand sign the FAFSA, throw it in the mail, and you're good to go. And it wasn't a big deal here in Kentucky because they had a processing center in London, Kentucky. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, they got rid of that hand signature option.
Right.
So the rule changed, and it basically became every contributor now needs an FSAID, a student aid account, even if you don't have a social security number. And there was going to be this big, intensive process to be able to help a parent get set up, and they were partnering with TransUnion, like the credit agency, to help verify identity. But there were just a lot of kinks in that system, like a lot of things that we've experienced with the FAFSA. So it got delayed, and a lot of students were in this holding pattern for months and months after the FAFSA opened. So realizing that it was a big issue, they did, in my opinion, the right thing, and they kind of opened up that process, at least for the time being, until they could get it working how it's supposed to. So now, if you're in that situation, if you're a student who has been kind of in this holding pattern, waiting and wondering when, if your parent doesn't have a social, when you could get that account set up and verified, you can now set up the FSAID, and there's a button you hit that basically says, I don't have a social security number.
Right.
It will allow you now to go through that process. If the TransUnion verification doesn't work, typically that Plan B option was that you would get emailed a list of documents that you could send in to Federal Student Aid, and that's how they would verify your identity. So you could send things like a driver's license, certain utility bills, things like that.
And that process was severely backlogged.
It was big time. Yeah, there were only very, very, very few families were successfully getting through that process.
Right.
So just recently, and I say like in the last few weeks, like I want to say maybe a month now. Yeah. Maybe not even quite a month.
Yeah, I think end of April.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Right. So now they've relaxed even that. So basically, if you're in that situation, you set up an FSAID, you don't necessarily have to send in any of the documentation to verify your identity at this point. It will allow you to go through the FSAID, sign the FAFSA, get that FAFSA submitted, processed, and that way you can start working with your colleges on the back end and hearing about like state aid programs through KHEAA. Now here's the caveat to it. Here's the but, right? The big thing to remember is this is not a long-term solution to this problem.
Right.
This is just to get us through the kinks in the system for now. So the Federal Student Aid's been very clear that when you set up this FSAID without a social security number, they'll still email you the list of documents that you need to submit. And they are very, very clear that you're going to want to still continue through that process, send in those documents as soon as you can, because starting in the 25-26 FAFSA cycle, that is going to be a requirement.
Yes.
And the thought is by that point, the system should be working a lot more seamlessly for families and that kind of thing.
They'll have it figured out,
But at least for now, if you've been in this holding pattern, you can now get your FAFSA completed without actually sending in those documents. But just don't let it kind of sit on the back burner. That is something that I would not waste any time to really try to gather the identification verification documents. Because eventually that FSAID won't work in next year's FAFSA cycle.
Right. And just to stress, what Keith just explained is for parent contributors who don't have a social or for a spouse of a student who doesn't have a social. Students still have to have a valid social or be an eligible non-citizen and have those documents as well. So that hasn't changed. This is specifically for those other contributors. So just to be clear, so that we don't want students thinking if I don't have a social I can still do this.
Right. And I think that's been the source of frustration because a student, by and large, they would be eligible for federal and state aid, if they have a social and they're a U.S. citizen, things like that. The running notion in financial aid has always been, parent citizenship status has no merit on students' eligibility for aid programs, but just the system and the changes and it not working how anyone
created
planned.
a huge disadvantage.
It has, and so I was glad to see that has now opened up, and I know here in Louisville, talking with the outreach counselors who have had a lot of FAFSA workshops recently, they've had a lot of success in helping families get to the finish line, which is really good news.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely what we want.
Yeah.
So the hot topic right now, that's hotter even than this room.
That's hard to believe.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Real hard. It's real hard. Hotter than my lower back right now. Is FAFSA supports for the summer.
Yes.
So it's no secret there is still a completion gap. We're still behind where we were, this time last year. We're still delayed. We're still trying to play catch up. And so the hot topic is, what are we doing for summer support?
Right.
And so recently, NCAN released a hashtag Do the FAFSA campaign. Does anyone want to talk about that? Does anyone feel like they know enough to talk about it, or you want me to keep going?
I was on a Zoom call about it about a week ago.
You need to talk about it.
And it's going to be a concerted social media effort to shine a light on the importance of FAFSA completion. I know there's going to be some funding behind it. So a lot of partners involved with trying to shine that light on it. But
I think they're going to get some social media influencers
That's what I'm
behind it.
most excited
yes.
about.
Yeah.
Some
They're gonna be
paid media. Like I think that they're trying to make it as spread it as
Big
far and wide as they
can.
can. Yeah.
The social media influencers. I'm
really curious to see that
interested
too.
to see
Yeah.
what's going to happen
Same.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be some celebrity who's super famous who I've never heard of.
Right,
like the social
exactly.
media influencer.
As
like,
long as the
I don't think
students
I'm the
know,
demographic
right?
that they're going for.
Demographic. I'm not a demographic. No. Right.
Which is a hard pill to swallow.
Exactly,
I'm like,
exactly.
I know.
Well, the only social
But
media
the celebrities,
influencers.
or they're not the same as they used to be either. It's
No.
not like you're seeing them on TV shows.
Right.
They're truly just on social media,
Yes.
and that's what they're famous for. Which
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
I can't relate to
The
that.
only social media stars I know are me and Keith.
Oh, 100%.
And
You all gonna get that call from
I was going
NCAN
to say
any day.
we've not
That's
gotten the
right.
call
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Any day
So,
they're going to be
have
reaching
Have you checked
out
your
to
phone
you.
yet? Maybe they've called.
Maybe that's what it
All right.
is.
Morley, I'm waiting.
Yeah. NCAN, feel free. Call us any minute. But I am interested to see who they choose as their social media influencers. And then I think there was some talk of a student influencer program that they want to start. I'm really excited about that because I know that's been discussions, in outreach of starting some sort of student influencer campaign. And so I'm just really excited to see what they do and what we can kind of piggyback off of that they're doing.
To me, in all honesty, what's exciting is that they're trying something new, and it is targeting students and young people who, they're finding folks that maybe they would listen to or see some value in. So
Exactly.
So that's certainly, I think it could be some helpful things to see over the summer.
It's interesting that your outreach counselor can say, do the FAFSA, and the kids are like, loser. And then PewDiePie, or who, I don't know.
Is that a person?
Whoever the latest TikTok
Whoever,
craze
Lene, you're young.
is.
Who's a social media influencer?
Well, we know how hip I am on social media.
PewDiePie.
Not that.
It
but
was not, it's not, okay, so not that person.
YouTuber from like
10 years ago.
That's really your name?
Oh, wow.
I thought you just made that
I
up.
thought you made it up too.
He was the highest grossing YouTube person like 10 years ago. The only reason why
That's
I knew
just
it
how much I know
was-
because I really thought you just pulled that off
made
the
it
top
up.
of your head.
No, the only reason why I knew it was because the summer camp kids, not even like my high schoolers, the summer camp kids, when I would say, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'd say, I want to be like PewDiePie.
Yeah. See, I'm more from the era of, what was that guy's name? Tom on MySpace. That's like the last social media influencer that I know. You know, the guy that was like
top
automatically
friend?
default your number one friend.
Yes.
So I always
I'm
wonder
too
what happened to
young
that
for all
guy.
that. I mean, like, this is all before my
She
time. I
doesn't
just don't
know.
know.
She doesn't know any of
Yeah.
this.
Well, the day that it hit me hard that I'm old and not cool anymore, I think it may have been you, Kim. You said you have a Facebook, and I said, yeah, I think I own one. I don't think that's the terminology people use.
We've not even convinced Keith to come to Instagram yet. Like, I'm like, Keith, you got to have an Instagram. And he's like, what?
Yeah. I think in a staff meeting, I did slip one time and say the Facebook, which is like the cardinal sin of showing that you are.
That's
and
up there with like calling it Facebook.
Yes, and I didn't even mean to. It just kind of slipped. And I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh my God, that made me sound so old.
That's what it was called when it first came out.
Yeah.
When I created my account, it was the Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Oh, okay.
Summer supports.
Supports. So KHEAA has our own summer supports going on. There is one that we're going to talk about next episode that's really exciting. So tune in because you want to hear about that one. But one of our biggest ones is the summer office hours.
Yes.
So
very exciting stuff. So this is something that it's not even just us. You know, we're getting the ball rolling on it, but we're bringing in a lot of partners throughout the state. And anytime we do that, it gets really exciting because just the scope of what we can do in terms of the impact. But essentially throughout June, every Wednesday afternoon from 2 to 4 local time, we're going to have all of these different locations throughout the state of Kentucky that are going to be available where at least one person will be standing by ready to field any and every FAFSA issue question that you might have. So, you know, that's been one of the biggest, I think, sources of frustration that a lot of students and families have had is because of all the issues and technical glitches and stuff. It's not always been easy to reach, you know, at the federal level, folks who can get you to the finish line. So our hope is to really just meet people where they are here in the state of Kentucky and just saturate the state with all kinds of opportunities. Cassie, I think you and I were talking just the other day. I mean, I think we're somewhere around 50-ish locations.
We're at 50, and I know that we've got give or take 5, about 20 more about to sign up.
Wow.
I think today was the deadline for this specific group to sign up. So we should be around like 70.
I think that's awesome.
Right? And that's their first year of doing this.
And it's going to be, I mean, it's such an important bridge because students will be leaving their high school soon. Some already have.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they don't have that daily access to a school counselor or, you know, someone else in the school that they see on a daily basis who can grab them and say, hey, we need to do this, or hey, let me, you know, then it's important that they know where to go. So I love that we're doing this. I think it's going to be great.
Huge. Yeah. And I love the idea that you can walk into almost any library, high school, college campus. If it's a Wednesday from 2 to 4 in June, there are a crazy amount of places you can walk in and say, I need help with the FAFSA, and there's going to be someone there ready to help you.
Regardless of where you're going to school, too. And let me say that because I know some college campuses I think are going to be helping out, too, but it doesn't have to be, you know, you're just going to the local school or that school. It can be regardless.
It's convenient
regardless of where you're headed, somebody will help you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Very exciting.
We're very excited about it. So if you are a practitioner and you're listening today and you're like, ooh, that's cool, I want to host FAFSA office hours at my location, you're going to want to go to KHEAA You can register to be a site host. Today we are beginning to market all of the locations where students can walk in and get some help. And so we will continue to market all of those locations throughout the end of June. If you are a student or a parent and you want more information, keep an eye on KHEAA social media, and also KHEAA Goes to College and KHEAA.com. We'll list all of those locations. And you don't really have to, you don't have to sign up as a student or parent. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to register. Just walk in the door. There's going to be someone there to help you. Yeah. And then there's more. We have big announcements coming next episode. Keith and I are going to talk to you about just some more FAFSA supports we have coming for the summer. If you are a college access professional, you definitely want to listen to that one because there's going to be some information on there about how you can kind of be a front runner in some new initiatives that we have going on and get some additional training and support. So tune in because we want to talk to you a whole lot about that, and that's still kind of taking form. So that's why I'm not really diving in today. Yeah. Also because it's very hot. Okay. Anything else, guys?
One thing I do want to just announce, we just reached out to our FAFSA Completion Challenge winners. Oh, yeah. So we do this contest each and every year to also help encourage FAFSA completion. So congrats to the schools who have won, which is Bergen Independent School, Bethlehem High School, Bowling Green High School, and
Bell County High School.
Nice.
Thank you. They're all bees.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Interesting, right?
That's the only reason why I would remember those names.
So each of those schools, because they registered to be a part of the FAFSA Completion Challenge on KHEAA those 4 winning schools will receive a $500 award from KHEAA. So really exciting stuff for those schools. But I do want to just let you know, if you are a school counselor and you have not been a part of KHEAA Goes to College initiatives in the 23-24 school year, we just opened up registration for 24-25.
Yes.
So if you want to be a part of the fun, help us, help your students, go to KHEAA We have that registration link up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And fun fact, 3 of the
Yes.
schools who had the highest percentage of FAFSA completions in their school would have won.
Yep.
But part of the stipulation is that you do have to be a Kentucky Goes to College registered school.
Right. You
Yep.
have to opt in to the challenge.
To the challenge.
And say,
And so
yes,
when-
I want to participate. Yeah.
Right. So unfortunately, those 3 schools that were the top tier of FAFSA completions in the state, we weren't able to extend that award to them simply because they had not opted in. So let this be a lesson to you.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign up for KHEAA Goes to
And guys,
College.
I'm telling
Yeah.
y'all, it's easy. It takes about
So
30
easy.
seconds to
I'm saying,
register. So
quick
just go to
and easy, yeah.
KYGoesToCollege.com. It's like, I don't know, 10, 12 questions, something
Yeah.
like
It
that.
is.
Most of it's multiple choice. So we really do try to make it easy on you.
And
For
then you
the-
get great resources from us. I mean,
Right.
that's really,
Yeah.
you know,
Toolkit,
aside from
support.
participating in the challenge, you hear about
Giveaways.
latest news and updates and all kinds of things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's advantages for sure.
For the 24-25 campaign, one thing that we were doing different for any of the schools who participate in the 23-24 versions of college application campaign, the FAFSA completion challenge, or college decision day, are automatically enrolled and registered for the 24-25 campaign, which I think is really exciting. But just so you all know, the first 200 schools to register for 24-25 campaign, we can guarantee those promotional materials.
That's right.
So
Yeah. And a special promotional package.
there we go.
Yeah.
Time around.
Yeah.
So
Beyond your
big thing-
wildest imagination.
Beyond your wildest imagination.
That's right.
So much good coming down the pike. So
Yes,
much good
very
going on in
exciting
the
stuff.
state.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining us.
this was so much fun. Thanks
This
for
has been
having me.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I say this every time, but might I say, the best guest so far.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
They just keep getting better and better. folks.
That's right.
We'll have Joe Carroll next.
I'll take
that
it
way.
until episode 12.
There you
And
go.
yeah, that's I'll wear the crown for a few
About
weeks
2
anyway.
weeks,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
us. Thank you to all of our tens of listeners and 5s of watchers. And join us next time on Coffee with KHEAA. And until then, KHEAA later.